Hi!
Hi!
Thank you
Hey.
for joining us once again every Tuesday. Every Tuesday or so. I have a work story.
Wait, already? We're getting off topic already.
Before we're on topic.
This is Drunk Doctor Who. Drunk Doctor Who, episode 39.
I know that. They clicked on the video.
December 9th. December 9th, 2019. Okay. Alright, feel free.
So, I'm an inventory manager at a dual store, like a combo store. That means like the same company owns two different stores. Like you'll see
Pizza Hut, Taco Bell?
Yeah, like that. So, I work in the back and inventory management. I have the headset so we can talk to each other over the headset. Like manager Teresa, can I get you to the back room? Monica, can I get you on finger 2 processing? Blah, blah, blah. At the end of my shift today, I hear someone from the other side of the store complaining, someone ate all the cake. And then like all three of us in the back room go, cake? What cake? So, you know how after you've been at a job for a long while, you just get to know your coworkers really well, and you can kind of expect that you know what kind of reactions they have to things.
Okay.
So work can kind of get mundane, and you just get really used to the going through the motions and everything. You know your coworkers real well, and their personalities and how they react. Well, the thing about the combo store is you never work with the people on the other side, so they're always just it's a wild card your conversations with them. So I end my shift, I go to the back room to clock it, or I go to the break room to clock out because that's where the computer is. And there's an employee from the other store just absolutely losing their mind how someone ate all the cake already. And me, I didn't even know there was a cake. So turns out someone brought a cake, like within 30 minutes, someone ate the whole cake. And this one employee's just absolutely losing their mind about it. Like, I didn't get any cake. They didn't save me any cake. That's so rude. I'm just...
Isn't the cake a lie?
Apparently. Because by the time we got there, it wasn't there anymore. It was just really funny to see someone so upset about something that's like...
Cake.
It's like, I cut the cake, I leave, I come back 30 minutes, it's all gone.
They should have taken a piece for themselves when they cut it. Alright.
Welcome to Drunk Doctor Who, where we talk about anything but Doctor Who.
Half the time, yeah. Alright, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Red's Apple Ale.
Mm-hmm, as you do. I'm drinking half and half screwdrivers.
Sonic screwdrivers.
Sonic screwdrivers of Doctor Who. Wait, next cereal.
Next what?
Next cereal.
Oh, is it the first Sonic screwdriver?
If I remember correctly, if I remember correctly, it's next cereal.
The enemy of the world.
It may be. Oh, I can't remember. All right, next cereal is the enemy of the world.
I've been waiting so long for the Sonic.
Okay, it's either that one or Fury from the Deep. It may be Fury from the Deep. So it's sometime this season. Sometime this season we'll get the Sonic screwdriver.
People who don't watch Doctor Who, much like myself not too long ago, know two things about Doctor Who. It's the TARDIS and the Sonic screwdriver.
And the Doctor.
Yeah. It's Doctor Who. But like of Doctor Who, you identify the Doctor by two things, the TARDIS, the Sonic screwdriver. So imagine my surprise to know Sonic screwdriver.
Soon. Sometime later this season.
So I've been waiting
the 5th season.
5 seasons. I've been waiting 5 seasons for one of the trademark.
Alright. Today's cereal was the Ice Warriors, the 39th cereal of Doctor Who. We're still in sync. We will not be forever with the number of our episodes in the serials. And like I said, December 9th, 2019. The 6 episodes, it was a 6-episode serial, spanned 11/11. Careful. Remembrance Day, Veterans Day these
Remembrance
days.
Day?
It used to be Remembrance Day. Now it's Veterans Day. Oh no, Armistice Day. It was Armistice Day.
Armistice.
When the
First ceasefire.
When the First World War ended, November 11th at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, 1919. That was Armistice Day.
I just watched a really interesting video about World War I and trench warfare and their impromptu armistice during Christmas and how they
the football.
They'd stop shooting
and they play soccer. And
it's
Christmas Day. That actually happened. All right. And it was immortalized in Paul McCartney's video for his song "Pipes of Peace." Really, really nice video.
Haven't heard that one.
All right. Watch the video. You'll see the whole armistice thing. Anyway, so Veterans Day, 1967.
Should we have a music list along with the movie list? Because you reference a lot of songs.
Maybe? I don't know. Alright. 11/11/1967 to 12/16/1967.
We do spend a lot of time watching music videos on YouTube.
Yeah, sometimes. Which means that this is another case where the serial has passed our date. So it's going past us, right?
Is that the third time we've done that?
Maybe fourth. Actually,
or do we keep lapping it? That's what happens.
Well, eventually it's going to lap us. Keep lapping us as it catches up to us in time.
Yes.
Because we're watching it faster than it was aired. Mm-hmm. So it's got 52 years to catch up to us. So anyway, and it will again because we're taking a break next week to watch.
So it's gonna.
Right. Next week will actually be 12/16, and we're watching Blade Runner 2049.
Of which I'm super excited.
Even though my Saints will be playing that Monday night, I just found out.
Watch your game. We'll
reschedule. No. The problem is, that's when Sarah has off.
Well, she'll be done with finals.
She'll be done. That's a perfect.
She'll have a Christmas break though, so there'll be another Monday.
Well, no, because the next Monday, Listen, I will be going.
We'll record the Saints.
Okay, next Monday we'll watch Blade Runner. Anyway, the Saints should beat the people they're playing. I don't know who they're playing.
The finals on Wednesday.
Okay, cool. The companions were Victoria and Jamie. Our antagonists were the Ice Warriors. Duh.
Did Jamie ever get his legs back?
Yes, because remember they leave together. Yeah.
So he's treated at the base.
Yes. Okay. Remember, because he gets up at that one point. All right. Anyway, so here's the Ice Warriors. This is one of those serials.
Very snowy, Christmas-themed episode. Lots of icicles in the introduction.
It takes place. All right. First of all, the Ice Warriors is one of the serials where some episodes were missing. Episodes 2 and 3. The other 4 exist because it was 6 episodes long. This is one of the earliest episodes to be animated.
You ready?
To complete the episodes.
You ready?
All right. Gumbe. Yeah, I'm drinking hard liquor. Our drinks were probably equivalent. And grab your
freeze. You told me I needed to catch up. So.
You do. You've got one more in the fridge.
Here we go.
Alright. So anyway, 6 episodes. Episodes 2 and 3 were animated.
I'll put the logo on this side. Let's do that side so we don't get copyright claim. We can't show the logos on the camera.
What the hell are you talking about? Alright. Once again, one of the earlier serials to be completed with animation because of missing episodes.
Have you seen those videos, the bottle top challenge, where they do the roundhouse kick and they kick the cap off and it spins off the bottle?
Or they've got the machete or whatever.
I haven't seen those.
Watch them opening a champagne bottle with a machete.
Oh, savoring the champagne.
Yeah, that's savoring. Yeah.
You think I can bottle flip this?
No! Heck no!
Alright.
This is a marble table. You would shatter. That would be bad.
Right. Gotta take it for the long way. But whiskey for the way. And okay. Some sweet corn pudding.
Okay. Anyway.
Even tomorrow, what do you say?
Okay. So one of the first serials to be completed with animation was only missing 2 of 6 episodes, and they've been completed with animation. Those are episodes 2 and 3. And it's the first showing of the Ice Warriors.
And they're a recurring villain?
They do show up
because they're still on Mars.
Times. Right, they're from Mars. But this takes place on Earth in a futuristic ice age.
Landed. Now, futuristic ice age, where are we on the future of Earth spectrum? Because we have...
A year is not given.
But, like, how does this make sense to where there's an ice age and then... But, like, humanity's super advanced to where they're controlling the environment of Earth, but I'm sure they have space travel, but they haven't discovered this entire race of people on Mars as the Ice Warriors.
To be fair, no. Okay. No date is given, but it could be literally it's 2019, given by how they thought we would be, technologically advanced.
Where they have
previous episodes.
Super advanced machine that conjures different elements, but it's run by a rotary dial.
Yeah, it was. You could make the machine. It was sort of like a.
Apparently, they didn't have buttons.
In Star Trek, it was the. Remember the Star Trek: The Next Generation? You just tell it what you want, and it would make it. I can't remember the name of that machine. But in this case, it's got a rotary dial phone on it, and you dial H2O and you get water.
So this episode happens sometime after the Daleks' invasion of Earth, but before the Daleks' master plan.
Probably.
Somewhere in there.
Probably, yeah. We don't have an exact date for this. They never, ever, ever give us a date. But anyway, so the whole world is covered in pretty much ice. Second ice age, and...
Thanks to scientific inaccuracies.
Oh my gosh.
Plants not
lots of scientific inaccuracies.
Carbon dioxide. And...
We know it's a children's show, at least at this juncture.
But not the kind that teaches children actual science.
It used to teach them history, but not... Okay, so apparently there's too much carbon dioxide, so the plants... So plants are dying off.
They figured out how to materialize food. They could artificially create food, much the same way they artificially create different elements. So there's no more need for plants, so they stopped farming, and they used old farmland for housing, for the exponentially expounding population because they had unlimited food now. They solved world hunger.
But
herein lies...
But that meant that there was not enough carbon dioxide.
Because there are no more plants.
Which is the exact opposite. Plants consume carbon dioxide and spit out oxygen, and we consume the oxygen and spit out carbon dioxide. So if there's a lot of humans and no plants, there should be a crap ton of carbon dioxide.
Which carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere necessary to transfer heat, like a magnifying glass. And that's why without the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it got really cold, because the heat couldn't penetrate that.
Okay. There was a scientific theory that the carbon dioxide layer of our atmosphere, how much carbon dioxide was in it, if there was too much, the planet would heat up. If there was not enough, the planet would cool off. The problem is that these models are really broken. While it does affect the Earth a smidgen, it's literally just a smidgen. What are you doing with your watch? Stop that. Alright, but anyway, so in the 60s and 70s especially, like this serial in the 60s and then Time magazine in the 70s, they thought there was a coming ice age because of the lack of carbon dioxide. And
because of the lack of plants.
Well, in this case, yeah. Which was the stupid, because it's the reverse, okay?
They didn't know that in the 60s, apparently.
I just think the writers of the show didn't know what they were talking about and got it wrong. But then later on, they went to global warming. There's too much carbon dioxide, thanks to methane emissions from cows and cars and all that stuff. But then
aerosol spray cans.
That was
That's
affecting the
whole
ozone layer.
ozone.
That was a whole different thing. So in 60s it was overpopulation, 70s it was global cooling, the next ice age, 80s it was the ozone layer, 90s it was global warming, and then when all that failed, now it's climate change this century.
Now explain climate change to us, Heather.
Okay, what that means is,
What's the difference between climate change and global warming?
well, with global cooling, the Earth's cooling, but if it doesn't cool, they're wrong. With global warming, the Earth's warming, but if it doesn't warm, they're wrong. So with climate change, any weather whatsoever, any oscillation in weather, which happens constantly on a daily, weekly, yearly, seasonally, decadesly, and centrally basis, oh my gosh, it's climate change, the world's ending. It's like, give me a stinking break.
You're squeaky.
You have no perspective whatsoever if you believe this crap.
And there has been recordings of warming before.
Yes,
Cooling.
Greenland actually used to be green. They used to farm there because the temperature was 5 degrees warmer, Fahrenheit. Maybe Celsius, I don't know. Temperature was warmer. The Earth seasonally, I mean now it's winter so it's cold. Daily, because it gets warmer in the day and colder at night. And by centuries it gets warmer and colder based on solar flares, our rotation on the sun, and other planets affecting the gravitational pull be closer or further away. This happens over the course of decades and centuries, millennia, and it happens. So to look at like a little 10-year window and scream that it's cooling or then scream that it's warming has no perspective. It's like looking at the year and going, it's getting colder because it's December. We'll never have daylight again because it's getting less light every day. Not looking at the fact that last year it did that and then it got lighter in the summer and then it got warmer in the summer. They want to look at this little tiny window of perspective and ignore everything else. It's insane.
No. Thank you for enlightening us. Because I never knew the difference between global warming and climate change, but can I ask you a question? What is your opinion on daylight savings?
Daylight savings time?
Yes, because personally, I hate it. It's so pointless. I hate switching my clock twice every year. I hate.
You should live in Arizona.
Losing an hour. Yes, but
they don't.
Here's the
daylight
thing.
savings time.
Here's the thing about daylight saving time. Arizona, as the state, and the state government does not recognize daylight saving. But a lot of Arizona is
Indian reservations.
Reservations.
And they do.
But
about a quarter of it, yeah.
Like a quarter of the state. But within that quarter, there is one reservation in the center that does. So you could be in Texas during daylight savings, change your clock, drive through Arizona, change it back, drive into the reservation lands, change it back, drive through that one reservation that does recognize it, change it back, drive out of that back into the reservation that does, change it back, and then through the state, change it back, and then to the next state, change it back. It's so dumb.
Well, that's so different than driving through multiple time zones and
Also,
having to change your clock. I mean, if you drive...
Also, Hawaii doesn't recognize daylight savings, I think.
Well, in the middle of the ocean. They've got nobody to relate to. All right, but I mean...
They just have the one time zone.
Yeah, well, in Texas, we have 2 time zones. El Paso and going to about Van Horn or somewhere there they're on the mountain time zone. So
like,
you drive across
right
Texas
at the edge
and
of
they're
the
different time
panhandle.
zones.
So you get that part that's like right at the beginning of
Close.
New Mexico.
Close.
So then under New Mexico, the wing of Texas.
Close, but there's a chunk of it that is, chunk of it that isn't. Yeah, but to maybe about Van Horn, and they're in the mountain time zone, and it's no different than that. You know, you drive across Texas and you change time zones. You drive across Florida, you change time zones.
But changing it 8 times for one state.
Well, just ignore it is the point.
The point is, don't recognize daylight savings. In the first place, we should drop it on a nationwide level because it's pointless. It's pointless. It's an old-timey thing.
It's not. You know who recommended daylight savings time? Who suggested it?
Mm.
Benjamin Franklin.
Yes, it was a long time ago. Actually, a huge proponent of it was this. What do you call the insectologists? The people that study insects. There's this famous person, scientist, really rich, was into politics, loved studying insects. He really supported Benjamin Franklin's idea to implement daylight savings because he wanted more daylight in the summer to study insects. And during the winter, when there aren't any insects and people don't really want to be outside, then you lose an hour. It gets darker sooner and you don't really care. But in the summer, you gain an hour during the day. But that's a very old thing because we don't spend as much time outside as we do anymore. But they kept it implemented because they said, well, it will save on electricity because of heating and cooling costs.
It's also good for farmers.
Nah.
No, seriously. We still rely on farmers. They produce the food.
Farmers voted against daylight savings. They didn't care.
Wait,
it doesn't have it doesn't matter.
Can you corroborate this statement?
Yes, I'll give you my sources.
Corroborate this statement. I am unaware of this.
But it's actually worse. It spends more electricity because people on hot summer days they don't want to go outside. They're inside watching movies and using air conditioning.
Well, today.
Yeah, so it's pointless today.
I disagree. I like the light till 8 o'clock in the evening.
I don't like this switching back twice a year and forth.
Oh my gosh, twice a year, semi-annually. It's not an inconvenience. Besides,
it's pointless.
I disagree. There are reasons for it. All right.
They're not reasons for it.
Are we going to debate daylight savings time for 2 hours? Is that what you want? When that light starts blinking and goes off, I blame you.
You say this every podcast.
No, I say it probably every other podcast.
We're gonna run out of time. I'll post links in the world. Farmers were against daylight savings.
Please post them. I want to see them.
You give us a synopsis.
Where the hell were we? Okay.
First episode.
Episode 1. All right. The Doctor, Jamie, and Victoria have just left Tibet.
They sure did.
With just left Tibet with the Yeti and the abominable snowman.
They didn't leave. They didn't leave with the Yeti.
They left them, right?
Yeah.
So they're all wrapped up in cold furs, and then they show up in this Ice Warriors scenario.
Second Ice Age
in
the Europe area.
Right. All we know is we're in the European area. Everybody, of course, has British accents, and they're on an island. So we assume that it's the United Kingdom.
I think they reference just the Eurasia continent base is where they were.
Well, the Europe, right, and then they've got Australasia, and they have Africa. They never mention the Americas at all.
Yeah, we don't care about. This is Britain.
You sound like the Harry Potter universe. Screw America.
It doesn't exist.
Anyway, so they end
Africa is their what they call it rehabilitation center.
Right. Okay. So essentially, the world has been taken over by a second ice age, and there are glaciers everywhere,
which move very quickly.
Stupidly, this episode does not. The science does not work. glaciers do not move 100 meters a day. And
in an hour, 100
meters an hour. And the carbon dioxide, an abundance of it, does not create an ice age. It's all wrong. And, plants don't die off creating
I have a
lack of carbon dioxide.
Let me play devil's advocate about the glaciers. So it's a ice age. The world's freezing over. They set up this ion cannons and put up these space satellites to artificially control the temperature on Earth, right? So they're holding it within this perfect balance. It can't get too cold. It can't get too hot. It gets too cold, human life can't survive. It gets too hot, the glaciers, all the ice melts, and then it floods, and then so they have to keep this perfect equilibrium to keep humanity alive. So they're constantly controlling temperatures, and so we have these giant frozen over glaciers, and they're keeping them from melting or just absolutely freezing over. So you have a solid on, let's say you have an ice cube on top of them, in your freezer. You have an ice cube in your freezer. The bottom of the freezer is cold, the ice cube's cold, they just stick right there. But you unplug your freezer gets warm, the frost on the bottom of the fridge melts, it's this thin layer of water. The solid ice cube on it, which is still frozen, it slides around like a solid on a bed of water, which is the glacier. So when their temperature controlling mechanism goes on the fritz and they're struggling to keep it in that perfect equilibrium, here's what I think is happening that makes the glaciers move so quickly is that it's warming, so there's it's getting slick and wet on the surface, so the solid frozen glacier is sliding around on this wet surface, which is warming up. So it's melting, the ice is, humidifying, it's creating air pockets, and there's that, it's sliding the glaciers around until they can control the temperature and refreeze it to keep the glaciers from moving.
Okay. Ice melts on the outside, right?
Well, the glaciers, maybe it's not all attached.
Well, ice melts on the outside first, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The thinnest layer. So if you have a thin layer under like an ice cube, well, the ice cube is solid. It gets too warm, the ice cube's going to start melting from the outside in. But also the thin layer of ice on the bottom is going to melt first, like the frost.
Hold on. We live in Lubbock.
Yes.
The ground freezes in the winter.
Yes.
Hard freezes.
Yes.
And it snows.
Mm-hmm.
The snow doesn't melt from the ground because the ground stays frozen, especially when there's snow on it. The snow melts from the top when it gets warm.
But we don't understand the ionization cannon or what sort of mechanisms they have that warms the planet and keeps it in that, equilibrium of the perfect temperature. So they could have all these circuitries that are warming from the bottom up.
You are so giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Devil's
they
advocate.
Don't deserve.
Maybe there's an explanation to why glaciers are moving.
Hold on. First of all, the water level does not rise when ice melts because, have you seen a glacier?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
10% of it is above the water.
Yes.
90% of it is below the water.
Well, that's for an Arctic glacier. What about like a...
Hold on. So the glacier melts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What takes up more space, ice or water?
Ice.
Correct. Because water, thanks to its unique properties, H2O, expands when it freezes, unlike most things. So when it melts, it condenses. So a glacier, when it condenses, when it melts, takes up the exact same amount of space as it did below the water. So when all the glaciers in the world melt, the water level does not rise.
But, so you have this glacier. Alright, it's starting to melt. The water runoff that's melting from the glacier then becomes a slick surface for the glacier to slide on.
but that assumes the bottom of the glacier, the frozen tundra underneath,
or just the
to
ocean.
which it is sticking. If you've ever licked a cold pole, okay, to which it is sticking, then melts, which is the last thing that happens.
That's not necessarily true. Like the surface, you have an iceberg, right, or a glacier, big chunk of ice submerged in water. The surface of the water is frozen over. Warming sets in. The outside, it's going to melt outside in. So the glacier is going to melt. It's going to reduce slightly. But the thinnest part, the frozen surface of the water, is also going to melt, which allows the big chunk of ice to float around freely in the bed of water. Because it's no longer held in place by the frozen
Once again,
surface.
it's water.
Yes.
When we're talking ground, the ground stays colder than the water. And, and you're talking viscosity.
The frozen earth.
Right.
And
it's
the
the
glacier
last thing to melt.
Well, it's the thinnest part. It's the thinnest
layer of
ice.
It's the last thing to melt is the frozen earth.
We'll put under a heat source, like a heat lamp. It's going to equally dispense heat. It's going to melt the frozen crust of the earth, and it's going to start reducing the size of it, and then it's going to slide on that slip.
First of all, there's no heat lamp. They are working.
We don't know.
Hold on. Without the ionizer, the glaciers were supposedly advancing hundreds of meters in an hour.
Well, because it was melting, because they weren't keeping the temperature at that perfect equilibrium.
No.
So it's dropping into heating, and then all the glaciers are melting. So they're moving.
No.
That's what they said.
No.
They're afraid of.
They also thought that too much carbon dioxide killed plants. Yeah, no.
So within this fixed universe, we're in this reality.
No. You're not going to change science for this, okay? And this isn't exotic science. This isn't like super collider crap. This is really basic science here. We're talking in the 1960s, they knew this, okay?
You put an ice, so you have a countertop, it's slightly wet, you put an ice cube on it, it's going to slide.
Because the countertop is not frozen like the tundra.
Well, but it was frozen. And
no.
It heats up, and then that slight layer of frost becomes a slight layer of liquid.
The last thing will heat up is the countertop.
No, you put it under a heat lamp.
The ice will melt before the countertop will unfreeze.
No. You have countertop. The whole room is really cold. It's frosted. All the moisture in the air it collects. It creates frost on the surface of the countertop. You have an ice cube on it. Then you put a heat lamp on it. It's going to melt the thinnest layer of ice. It's going to start melting the outside of the ice cube. It's also going to warm up that frosted
a marble countertop.
It's going to slide
frozen tundra.
Well, we don't know how the ionizer works.
It was frozen tundra.
Well, it was rapidly melting, which was why it's sliding, because they're trying to get it back into that equilibrium of not too hot, not too cold, so humanity could survive. Now, this ionizer is warming up this entire continent of Europe. There's one for each continent, a different base for each. So it's like a giant heating element. Also a heating element, we don't know if it's doing it from the surface up or the top down. We don't know how this heating element works. It could work. Now, not the carbon dioxide, I'll give you that, but the sliding glacier, is that good?
Okay. Alright, we're still on the first episode. Okay,
we're explaining the science. We have to
we're explaining the non-science. It doesn't work. None of the science in this works.
Sliding glacier.
It's okay. It's a Doctor Who episode. In the 60s, alright? Alright.
We'll conduct an experiment.
We're not going to a glacier, okay? And we're not... An ice cube on the counter doesn't count as an experiment for this. Alright. So anyway, the Doctor, Jamie, and Victoria show up in the TARDIS on this frozen...
Maybe they're on a hill. We don't know. It's warming and the glass just sliding down the hill. Because it's no longer at the freezing point. It loosens up the ice and then it slides down the hill.
Zen. Okay. Alright. Anyway, so the Dr. Jamie and Victoria show up in the TARDIS on a slight ice bank. And the TARDIS shows up for some weird reason horizontal instead of vertical.
The Doctor referred to it as a blind landing.
Yes, a blind landing. They open the TARDIS doors, and this, I think this is the first time this has happened this way. It does happen later on.
Inside orientation of the TARDIS is related to the outside orientation of the TARDIS.
Oddly
Like
enough,
a giant,
despite the dimensional thing, yes.
Like you're tipping over an outhouse.
Yes.
You have the TARDIS outhouse tipping on its side. The entire inside, which is bigger of the TARDIS, also tipping on its side.
Okay. There's a slight showing of that during the first Doctor, that could be the way it could be during Marco Polo. And
how they collected moisture off of the...
Well, yeah, that plus it moves along with the...
Even though the TARDIS can create
the thing it's in,
water.
Right. Oh my god, yeah. Don't. That never comes up again.
No water on the TARDIS.
And during the what was it? The smugglers. The TARDIS landed in that spot
and
it was going to water, right? Yeah, and tipped over. This is the first time it's really, really horizontal, and apparently affects the inside, which is continued later on in Doctor Who, where if it does land on the side, the inside is affected because you could fall into the swimming pool and stuff like that out of the library.
Or the outside orientation is not related to the inside orientation. Inside the TARDIS, they're right side up, but as they attempt to exit the TARDIS, gravity is all of a sudden flipped horizontally, so they're standing and they're trying to climb upwards while their lower half of their body is still orientated towards upright gravity, which is why it's so difficult for them to get out of the TARDIS.
No.
Because we don't see the inside of the TARDIS as they're getting out of the TARDIS, so we don't know.
Correct.
That the inside orientation is related to the outside orientation.
We never, to the best of my knowledge, see a differential in orientation based on that. Correct. From the inside of the TARDIS, only from the outside.
Do we ever get to see the threshold of the TARDIS and have a continual shot of outside of the TARDIS through the doors into the TARDIS? Do we ever get to walk into it, see the threshold, and see the small thing expand?
Yes.
That's all I want, because they can't do that in 1967.
No, they do that eventually. It may happen in the later of the first run, but it definitely happens a lot in the current revival.
I'm ready for it.
We'll get there in a few years. Give it about 6-7 years.
Because there's so many shots that just don't make sense.
All right.
I'm Holden. That's my name. Don't worry.
Correct, Holden. Holden Hatter. All right. Anyway, so
we just now introduced ourselves.
30 minutes into this
podcast.
Okay, seriously, you guys segued off on some story about your Pizza Hut companions.
Well, we're setting up I don't work at Pizza
Hut. Taco Bell Pizza Hut.
Combo store.
Yeah, combo
inventory
store.
management.
Where the hell do you work?
It's the TJX company. They own Home Goods and Marshalls.
Okay, Home Goods and Marshalls. Which side are you on? Home Goods. Okay.
Furniture side.
Alright, so Marshalls gets cake, apparently.
No, we share a break room, so we all got cake. But the Marshalls employee was just irate about how someone came and ate all the cake within 30 minutes of it arriving. Which is funny because I never hang out with the Marshalls employees, so I never know how they're going to react to anything. So there's always a freshness in every interaction with people that I don't, work with side by side all day. So
you sure you don't want any vodka?
I have no rids.
Okay, vodka.
Why? Am I too sober?
I think so, actually. Oddly enough, I do think you're too sober. Right,
which means my science is probably right.
No, none of this science is right.
From the top to bottom,
none of it.
Doesn't make
not to my understanding. Okay.
Top to bottom.
All right. So anyway, the Doctor, Victoria, and Jamie show up at a station in a tundra-like atmosphere that we are led to believe is the United Kingdom, because all these glaciers in this second ice age at some undetermined point in the future are threatening all of the Earth. There are basically scientists trying to hold the glaciers at bay, scavengers who are the locals who are trying to survive despite the scientists, and those people who are sent to the North African reconstruction camps. What is it called?
Rehabilitation center in Africa.
Some maybe where they try to reprogram people to survive under the current conditions. Apparently, there's a glaciers obviously in Northern Europe, which they're trying to keep at bay in the United Kingdom. Glaciers, of course, in Siberia, Australia, South Africa, which is interesting, and they never mention the Americas. But apparently there's some sort of ban near the equator, which includes the rehabilitation centers in Africa, say around Middle East, Israel, above the Saharan in Africa. So, what's that country?
What, Africa?
Oh, no. And in Africa you've got Libya, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, but then going the other way you have
Iraq, the Middle East.
Well, that's over here. What's the other way?
China, Mongolia.
That's further east. No. Not Monaco. That's in Europe. The one with the fez.
Oh, India.
No, the city of Fez is in.
You mean the hats they wear?
Yeah, the Fez hat is from a city called Fez, which is in a country which starts with an M.
Agrabah. Where's Aladdin from?
I have no bloody clue.
It's a joke because it's a made up place.
Okay.
I think.
But
Agrabah.
no, Fez is in a. Oh my gosh, you guys are off track. Fez is a city.
Wars of Fez.
Right, Fez is a city in not Monaco.
It's like where the Dalai Lama is.
That's bloody. That
Budapest.
was Tibet. Now that's
Budapest.
part of China.
Are you thinking of Budapest? That area?
No, the Budapest in Hungary. No.
No?
No.
I don't know where you.
The western part of North Africa. It's a city that starts with a country that starts with an M.
Malaysia?
Okay, what part of Malaysia says not Asia? No.
I don't know.
Morocco. Fez, Morocco. See,
they have a game called Morocco. You ever played it?
I don't know this game.
Okay.
You see Morocco, somewhere else, Libya, Egypt, I don't know where that somewhere else is. But anyway, Northern Africa apparently are the rehabilitation camps where they send the scavengers, who also called the loyalists, who work against the scientists at keeping the glaciers at bay because apparently they're anti-science or something.
Well, that was specifically Store. We don't know if all scavengers are loyalists because they had some scavengers in the base that are being evacuated. Like when the doctor and his companions walked into the base, there's this attendant.
I think everyone who's not specifically a scientist with those really sexy 60s outfits are labeled as scavengers.
But they also had, scavengers that work with
sexy outfits
in the same building with the scientists. And then
the only scavengers who were noted were Score and the doctors and his companions.
But we can
extrapolate.
We can assume that by the attendees' assumption of how the doctor and his companions were dressed, they assumed that they were scavengers, and they're super friendly with them. They're like, "We're evacuating you. We're giving you this little name tag so you could be evacuated."
Wave 7, yeah.
So that doesn't mean that all scavengers are loyalists and anti-science, because I think specifically Store was crazy and super anti-science.
Right. Once again, we don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the world we don't know. Our only example of scavengers is SCORE. So anyway.
Yeah, the misconception of the Doctor and his companions serve as an example of how the scientists treat the scavengers.
True, but our only serious example of scavengers is SCORE.
And the interaction with the...
Okay, the Doctor, Jamie, and Victoria show up, and at the same time they show up, there's an alarm at the base. They kind of duck under cover, but the alarm, we don't know if it's for the Doctor. Wait, we don't know. It's not. It's because their ionizer is on the fritz and it's collapsing in its capacity.
They got thrown out of the equilibrium because they lost their main scientist, Pinley, who was the scientific mind behind the operation at the base, who did all the calculations, calibrations. So without him, they're struggling to keep the ionizer at that equilibrium of not too hot, not too cold, and it's drastically swinging back and forth, and it's getting too cold. So they're trying to heat it back up again, which was extruding too much power for the ionizer, which was about to cause a meltdown and to have the mainframe just explode and so that's why the alarm was sounding, imminent explosion, because they're trying to use too much power.
Right.
So they're trying to evacuate, and they don't know how long until it's going to explode.
Right. Pretty good summary. So at the same time that's going on, Pinley and SCORE are taking the advantage to run out of the base. Alright. So they run out of the base while the Doctor, Victoria, and Jamie hide in a snowbank because they heard the alarm. So we meet Pinley and SCORE, they run out, and the Doctor, Victoria, and Jamie go, well, we should go in for some reason, because they notice the dome that covers the base, which is a kind of a plastic polymer dome, not quite a geoistic dome. Sorry, I'm drunk. So they go into the base, and they're wandering down the hallway, and it looks fairly Victorian-esque in style. And Victoria actually remarks, this is just like my home. So they go down, and they wander into the main control room, which apparently has the worst security measures ever, because anyone can wander in. Anyone can wave their hand in front and get into the base, and apparently anyone can wander into the main control room. And the Doctor starts hearing about the readings coming off all the machines, and he gets more agitated. He goes, oh my, 17735, and oh my, 2.882, and he wanders around the system in the circular room while they're reading off these things, becoming more agitated, and finally the main guy, Cleet, what's his name? Cleet? Clent. The main guy, leader Clent, he goes, wait a minute, who the hell are you? And the Doctor goes, no time for that now. This base is going to blow up in 2.37 minutes if this isn't taken care of. And Clint goes, how could you know that? And so the Doctor goes around the room and tells people to do things. He says, you connect the manifold couplings to the ionizer, okay? You take the reactor and set it to this level, and you do this. And he goes around doing all that, and then he says, okay, you give it a short burst to connect it, and eventually does it, and everything is, all the power gets back up to about 50%. And then Clint looks at the Doctor and goes, Pleth or whatever his name is couldn't do any better. And he says, you might be of some use to us. And he says, but how could you know there'll be 2.38 minutes? And the Doctor says, well, give or take a second. And so the guy goes to the computer, in which they believe wholeheartedly that the computer knows everything. And he says, okay, computer, given all these parameters, how long will it be? And the computer goes, 2 minutes, 37 seconds. And the doctor says, well, 1 second off. Nobody's perfect. So the doctor saves the entire base. Hello, welcome back.
He's still on episode 1?
Yes, oddly enough. Take off your hat. What do you have your hat on?
I like my hat.
You're inside, okay. So the doctor saves the base, and Clint. Well, no. Clint. Clint. That's the whole point of this. Okay, so Clint. He's a Hanyak, and he is as stiff as a board, and he is a leader though. But what he does is he's pragmatic. He takes on the doctor and says, "Hey, we don't have our scientists anymore, so you're a new scientist." Right?
Yes.
Okay.
I like how... I find it humorous how it's becoming a routine for me to just walk out of the podcast so we can finish the summary, because otherwise I'll just keep getting off topic and we'll never finish.
We're still on episode 1.
But I leave and you're still on episode 1. What have you been talking about?
You weren't gone very long.
I was gone forever.
No! Alright. So the doctor saves the base, keeps the ionizer and the computer on track. And he's like, hey, okay, I'll help you if it's, okay for me.
Yeah, scoot this out so you quit rubbing that. It's squeaking.
It's old. It's gonna squeak.
It's because it's rubbing the whiteboard. So
I don't know about that. All right.
How the doctor? Okay.
Are we in episode 2 yet?
Yes. So
what the heck are you doing?
The doctor and Clint's interaction of Clint trying to conscript the doctor and as a replacement for Penley creates this dynamic between Clint, who's this really control freak, and the doctor, who's just this free bird. It creates this dynamic between these two characters as to where it shows Clint's nature of controlism, and he has to have everyone act under his. He's a control freak. He has to have everyone, functioning cogs as part of a machine, and he's trying to exert. He's trying to show his control over the doctor, and the doctor is constantly fighting back as, remember, I'm just volunteering here to help you. I still have my anonymity or animosity.
No.
Singularism.
Individuality.
I'm still my own person. I'm not a part. You're not my boss. I'm helping. You can't tell me, you're not. So it's this back and forth between,
Right, you're not the boss of me now.
Yeah. You're not the boss of me now. Episode 2.
Alright, we're finally to episode 2. Okay. In episode 2, what the hell happens in episode 2?
Here's my episode 1 and 2 notes.
Okay.
Episode 2 ends here. Here's 3 through 6.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
So we have 1/3. We have 1/3 of.
Okay. Okay. So in the meantime, while all this crap is happening, some Hanyak finds an ice warrior in the ice, in the glacier, Walters, and decides to bring him home, bring him back to the base.
He thinks he's a Viking because their
helmets,
stupid helmets.
So he's like, oh, this guy must be from a pre-Viking age, but he's a giant among men, as in giants of the New Testament. So he takes this chipped out Ice Age man.
Was that metaphorical or literal?
Yeah.
The walls of grasshoppers among giants, is that a metaphor?
No. In the Old Testament, there were giants among men. There were the
metaphorical giants?
No, literal giants, like Goliath, that were that roamed among men that were the descendants of the angels and women.
Mm-hmm.
Angels mated with women, and they created the giants, and they walked amongst men.
Where does it say that though?
In the Old Testament.
I looked for a scripture verse, but I haven't found it.
Okay. And the angels.
Chapter verse.
Well, grab my Bible. And the angels went unto the women of men, the daughters of man, and found them favorable, and they created the giants of the age. I don't know the chapter and verse, but that's a paraphrase.
Let's have a Bible study sometime.
Well, we should.
Because I have all these questions.
Do you want to film it or just do it?
Either or.
I don't know if filming would be the right way to go. This is Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, but there were giants amongst men, and they were the offspring of angels and women, daughters of men and angels.
Okay. I just never read if that's metaphorical or...
No, it's literal. Hey, go to the living room and grab the Bible.
We'll do that off camera. We'll do that.
We'll do that off camera. But seriously, it's there. I mean, in Genesis. Anyway, why do you get us off topic?
Alright. You reference.
Okay, so they find this giant in the ice, this like 7-8 foot guy.
Lego hands.
With Lego hands. Okay. And they bring him back to the base. This is still the first bloody episode.
No, it's episode 2 now.
No, it's still episode 1. And they bring him back to the base, and they hook him up to some sort of thaw, and it's thawing out the ice, but it does so quickly because there are impurities in the ice. And it turns out to be an ice warrior with his Lego hands because they're mechanical or something. Mm-hmm. Looks like, seriously, the Lego guys.
Danger, Will Robinson?
Danger, yeah, just like that. And he thaws out. That's the end of episode 1.
No, I'm thinking of Meet the Jetsons. Will Robinson's robot had fingers, didn't he? Did he have pincers?
Dude, I do seriously not remember. I mean, seriously, that was lost in
I know
space.
the Robinsons had the
so
maid robot with
the Jetsons. Those Jetsons.
Jetsons.
I don't remember her name. She had a name. Meet George Jetson.
The maid robot.
His boy Elroy. Daughter Jamie. And the wife. I don't remember the mate's name.
I don't think they say it in the theme song.
No,
they talk about a song,
but she had a name. Anyway, she had the same kind of hands. Anyway, so cup hands, like a cup holder, just the 2 digits. And it's obvious in 4K TV, the huge giant TV, they're plastic, and they're just, people manipulating them, but...
And their lips are awful, they don't see... They're super unsettling because there's just this tongue in there that's doing this whenever, and they're talking when their lips are closed and just sporadically moves.
The Ice Wars lips look like
it's really
the Dark Crystal people with Dark Crystal
Even
lips.
Worse, way worse than Dark Crystal.
Have you seen the Dark Crystal?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
You know they rebooted it. Another one on Netflix. It's a Netflix original.
No. There's the movie. That's it. Period.
But the movie, it doesn't sum up the whole lore of...
It does. We're good. It's done.
Doesn't it end on a cliffhanger too?
No.
They even made a comic series to explain the backstory.
No.
Because the movie just jumps you into all this backstory that you have no idea what's going on and these crystals. So they made a comic to explain, but now they're making the...
No. We're done. Okay.
So many questions.
Pincer claws for hands. Anyway.
Yes. Stupid Viking helmet with electrical...
Which the doctor explains that they are for interstellar travel and they figure out they're from Mars. Okay, partly because they say so.
The red planet.
Right. Okay, what a...
Mars. So, they're about to... Now the doctor helped them stabilize the ionization cannon. They're about to warm it up and bring it back to equilibrium. But the doctor rushes in with this newfound, these aren't Vikings, they're, space beings, which means they came here on a spaceship, which means we don't know how their engine works, which means if we heat it up too quickly, it could explode their engine and it causes
the cobalt stuff.
Yeah, so he goes in, he says, don't heat it up just yet.
Yeah, so they decide not to, and they put a pause on everything so they don't explode their whole area with cobalt radiation.
Possibly, because they don't know how the spaceships...
So they don't know what the spaceship engines are.
The Ice Warrior wakes up, knocks out Jamie. Captures Victoria.
Knocks out Jamie with a
No. That's how he knocks out Clint. He knocks out Jamie both of them. Just with his hand.
Oh yeah, knocks out Jamie with his arm because they're like
Jamie's protecting Victoria. He's marching towards him. He's holding back. He punches him.
Doesn't work.
And the Ice Warrior just snaps him away. He's unconscious. Takes Victoria, walks her into a broom closet, starts interrogating her.
Yeah, seriously.
He starts interrogating her. Where am I? What's going on? How did you revive me? And she's just hysterical.
The restroom.
She has no idea what's going on. She's like, I don't know. You chose the worst person to ask because I'm from the Victorian area. I don't understand science and technology. It's like, how did you revive me? And she's like, I don't know. So she's doing her very best to describe to this Ice Warrior what's going on and what kind of technology they used. Eventually he gets it out of her that they revived him with electricity, and he's pointing this gun at her that's attached to his wrist, and she's like, what is that? It's a gun. And Ice Warriors have no subtlety. Throughout this entire serial, they're just telling everyone their plans and their strategies. They're always dialoguing for the edification of the viewer. But plot-wise, it doesn't make much sense that they're just constantly explaining everything that they're doing and telling them their secret plans. So throughout Victoria's entrapment with the Ice Warriors, they just tell her everything and they explain to her. They hold her hand. This is what this does. This is what we're planning. We may take over your planet. There's just no subtlety. There's no secrecy. And that's just because the show writers back in 1967, they didn't know how else to, get across what's going on to the viewers other than just dialoguing throughout. So that happens in different ways. At one point, we have Penley, the scientist that jumped ship, and at some point, we're being explained, us the viewers are having the plot explained to us as Penley's just talking to himself in the mirror, and that's how that's how the writers wrote in how to explain to the viewers what's going on. They're like, well, we'll just have Penley talk to himself for 2 minutes in the mirror. So it's kind of wonky, it's kind of funny, but it's a product of its time. From there, the Ice Warriors, the Ice Warrior interrogates Victoria. He's like, what technology? Eventually, he figures out that she's telling him that, it's this electrical fusion box that defrosted you and jolted you back to life. He's like, okay, take me to that room. I have to, get that fusion box so I can wake up my companions and defrost her spaceship and stuff. In the meantime, we had Penley, the scientist that jumped ship, who kind of had a mental breakdown because under the leadership of Clint, because we talked earlier about the dynamic between Clint and the Doctor, how they're butting heads, how Clint is very, overbearing and in charge, and the Doctor is a free bird and in charge of himself and doesn't, conform to strict regulations. Penley is that times 100. He is, super feisty, and he's not at all taking orders from Clint. So we're led to believe that Clint just caused Penley to have this mental breakdown, and he just walks out on the whole operation. So here we are. Penley left. He just walked out into the wilderness, met up with a scavenger named Score, and they're close buddies, and they're outside, and all this commotion's going on. There's this avalanche. Penley's scavenger companion gets hurt in the avalanche. He breaks his arm. Penley takes him back. He also has a concussion. He binds up his Score's arm, and then he needs to get medicine. Thank you. I still have one. He needs to go back to the moon base. I'm talking about Score and his broken arm. Penley is on his way back to the base to get Score medicine for his concussion and his broken arm. Otherwise, he's going to die.
Episode 3?
Episode 2. The very end of episode 2. So here we have Penley sneaking into the base that he abandoned to get medicine for his scavenger companion Score. And then we have Victoria in the same hallway being, escorted by the Ice Warrior to get this fusion electrical box to revive his Ice Warrior companion.
Oh yeah, that was well done. Yeah, especially the animation.
And they're, he's in that hallway. Victoria rounds the corner. She goes, no, hide. And he jumps in the closet. And then Penley witnesses Victoria being held captive by the Ice Warrior, walking back to that one room. Cliffhanger, episode 3. We have the Ice Warrior grabs the fusion box, the electrical fusion box, to revive his companions. Then you have Clint, who walks in the room, after being told by the doctor that the Ice Warriors are this advanced civilization, and how we can't use ionizing cannons to warm up the planet, or we risk an explosion because we don't know the power source.
My last vodka.
Clint walks into the to the room to investigate, and then surprise, the Ice Warrior's woken up and he's freed. He has the fusion box. Clint's like, "What's going on?" The Ice Warrior knocks the crap out of Clint with the fusion box.
Oh no,
electrical
seriously,
box.
just bonks him over the head. And to be fair, this Clint guy, he's got a cane. He's slightly handicapped. What's the word?
Monoplegic?
No.
You have monoplegic, paraplegic, quadriplegic.
No. He's basically got a severe limp.
Yes.
One of his legs doesn't work well, but he's not pelegic. He's, what's the word?
Handicapped?
Slightly. I don't know what I'm trying to remember the word they used back then.
I wouldn't know that.
You're so young. Okay. Anyway, he's got a cane. It seems like a plastic or a glass cane. I think probably some sort of polymer plastic that he walks with all the time, which is kind of cool. They've got
Very
this
distinguished.
Right, representation of someone who's slightly handicapped in this role. Really cool. Some people are going to be that way. So it happens, so he's represented, so it's cool. And he gets seriously bonked over the head with a power pack.
The electrical fusion box.
Just a boom. And big black box, and he gets knocked out.
At this point, Jamie has woken up, rushed to the main control room to warn the doctor. So the doctor and Jamie come back into the room. Mm-hmm. The doctor is there. He runs into Penley, who went in for the medicine. They have this interaction. The doctor's like, what's happening? And Penley explains, weird alien dude knocked out Clint, had your female companion. I'm just here for the medicine.
And I'm giving him these smelling salts.
Bye. And the doctor's like, okay, fair enough. Okay, you just here for the medicine. I need to go save Victoria.
And Clint.
So the doctor is seeing the Clint, giving him smelling salts. Victoria is taken captive to the excavation site where the other ice warriors are frozen. Their spaceship is frozen.
The glacier, yeah.
The glacier. The ice warrior sets his, sonic cannon to break out perfectly all the ice around.
Well,
the ice warriors.
With the help of the what are the black boxes they took?
Well, he doesn't use that till later. So there's this giant glacier. He uses his wrist ion cannon to sonic cannon to perfectly chisel out everything but the ice warriors. Then he hooks up the electrical components to defrost them and spark them back to life.
Yeah. To be fair, we're in the animated episode, so we don't know exactly what happened there.
So now that all the ice warriors...
Episode 3 was the other animated one.
Now that the ice warriors have been defrosted and are revived by the electrical fusion box, they then
eventually
all use the same technique of the ion sonic cannon to perfectly chisel out the entrance of their ship from the ice. In the meantime, Clint has woken up and they're back in the main control room talking about what they should do. Oh, we should mention the computer. They have this universal global computer that they put all their hopes and dreams and aspirations in, and they can't make any decisions without first consulting this perfect hive mind computer that has...
It's so bad. So bad.
Because they're like, the computer's impartial. It can calculate way better. It acts in the best interests of all. We must consult the computer for everything.
The computer is your friend.
Yeah, so the doctor and Jamie are acting with urgency. They're like, we have to go rescue Victoria. Time is of the essence. We have to form a search party now. And Clint is like, whoa. Let me extrapolate all this data and feed it to the computer so the computer can tell us what to do.
To be fair, it does it quickly.
So eventually... the computer runs its statistics and it's like, okay, I can sacrifice one person to form a search party, and that person is Arden.
Arden.
And
so the computer says Arden can go, and Arden's like, well, I need a guard. And the doctor's like, well, take Jamie. And the Clank guy is like, no, we can't send anyone with him because we need everybody. And the doctor's like, well, Jamie's extra. He's not in your system.
He's like, of your crew.
Right, he's not of your crew. So you can send him, he's extra. And so the guy's like, Clint's like, very pragmatic. Says, okay.
This goes to show how their modern civilization solely relies verbatim on what the computer says, and it takes out all the human element of taking risk and the human element of emotion, and how the doctor is a normal person, so he says, well, your computer only has the information of your crew, that's why it said it can only sacrifice, one person to go on this task, but we're not in that calculation, we're extra, we just showed up, you can send Jamie. So that represents Clint's reliance on the computer and how he doesn't really think for himself anymore, because he just goes verbatim of what the computer says. He's like, computer said just one person, and the doctor's like, well, just one person of your crew. We have Jamie, who's not a part of your crew.
Right. Clint's like married to the computer in some ways. He wants to do the best he can, but he can't really think for himself, and it's this sets us sort of a Logan's Run scenario.
This sets us up on the long journey of Clint's indoctrination of how the computer is perfect and how his belief is this shelf. And throughout this entire serial, the doctor is trying to break him of that indoctrination by just placing one point upon another on top of his mental shelf, to where he's like, human element, you need to take risks, you need to calculate through emotion and your own human mind. And eventually, the doctor is trying to put all these weights on top of his shelf to eventually it breaks Clint of this, one mindset that the computer is perfect when it's not. But we explore that later, further on in the serial.
Right, I think I'm following, but I'm just trying to make sure. Okay, so that's episode 3.
Yes. So now we have
Arden
and
Jamie.
Jamie
Who go out in search of Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
And they go out and they find the cave. And at the end of the cave is a sort of metal portal, which they assume to be the entrance to the Ice Warrior's ship. Correctly, actually. And then the Ice Warriors come out and they shoot them with some sort of weapon. And
which miraculously, for plot reasons, kills Arden, but not Jamie.
Well, I assume they were shooting at Arden, and Jamie was a bystander, because Arden was the older, more physically imposing individual.
Here's a paradox of we have 2 shooters, 2 targets.
Well, they both shot at the main target.
No. We have 2 shooters, 2 targets, and they have these futuristic weapons, these sonic cannons, which explode the target's brain through sound waves.
Okay, futuristic for 1967.
Well, a futuristic concept, because we still don't have that technology.
Yeah,
through sound
1967.
Waves, their wrist gauntlet
it's like
cannons,
52 years.
Through directional sound waves explode the target's brain. So we have this paradox that we have 2 shooters, 2 targets. Each shooter shoots at a target.
The same target.
Which happens to be the same target. Each shooter doesn't know which target the other shot. So one person's brain explodes, the other target gets knocked out in the crossfire through the sound waves, but his brain doesn't explode because they both shot at Arden and not Jamie. But since they're not projectiles, there's no exit wounds. They just both assumed, well, they both dropped dead, so I shot this guy. My partner must have shot the other guy. So that's how Jamie had his 50-50 chance of...
Right. To be fair, that is 50-50.
Well, it's actually 25, because he had a 50-50 which each person... So 75% of the time Jamie dies, 25% of the time he lives, he was lucky. He lived. Both of the people didn't shoot at him.
Hold on. You drink... Let me figure that out. Okay. 1, 2...
2 coin flips.
Hold on.
Heads both times. 50-50 twice is 25%.
Okay, I think you're right. But yeah. But anyway,
so
Arden dies. He's the bigger, more imposing individual. The man. While Jamie lives because he's the boy.
He was lucky. Neither of them shot him. But he's still knocked out.
Correct. 50-50 chance at that point.
25% chance.
No. 50-50 once you assume that they have shot at least one at Arden.
So you have 2 people with guns. There are 2 targets. First one shoots, coin flip. 50-50.
They shoot at Arden because he's the more imposing
Second one shoots, coin flip.
But they shoot at Arden because he's the more imposing
He wins 2 50-50s, 25% chance of survival.
You are correct, excepting for the fact that Arden's the more imposing individual. Jamie's a boy, Arden's a man. They shoot at Arden. But Jamie is assumed to be 16, 17. He looks like a boy. He's treated like a boy. Even though it's essentially male adulthood.
It's a conclusional survival rate of each Ice Warrior assumed that the other one shot Jamie, and they were the ones that shot Arden.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a 25% chance of Jamie's survival. He got lucky, he didn't die.
Alright, where are we? Are we on episode 4 yet?
Yes.
We have 3 more bloody episodes.
Explain episode 4.
And I'm getting really drunk.
Do you want me to finish?
No, we can do it together, but I'm just saying we are long in the tooth on this serial episode, whatever.
So we have dead Arden, knocked out Jamie.
Correct.
Penley comes across the 2 dead bodies on his way back with the 2 dead bodies. He realizes Arden's dead. Jamie's not dead, so he brings him back to their hiding spot, which is this ancient museum of old produce and old technologies like plants, which are obsolete, which led to the Ice Age.
A terrarium.
And because
a terrarium.
The scavenger Tor is such a loyalist and anti-science, he's constantly very skeptical of everything his closest companion Penley does, because Penley's a scientist, even though he's his only friend in this world who has nursed him back to health. He's still constantly skeptical of what he's doing. And then Jamie wakes up. He has a conversation with Storr about they confuse two different loyalist terms.
Right. Drake will explain it. Mm-hmm. So Jamie understands loyalists to be someone to the crown in his day and age, while what's his name? Storr is mentioned loyalists to be someone to the earth, not scientist, not ionizer in his day and age. But they make a connection, which is completely irrational, except for the fact that he uses the term loyalist.
There's, Edgar Allan Poe, he wrote this short story, Gothic Horror of the Telltale Heart, where there's a similar misinterpretation where there's the Masons Guild, and then there's the literal term of masons, brick and mortar, who lay concrete and bricks. So the one really arrogant rich guy says, I am a mason, and he's of course referring to this elite group of the Masons Guild. And the other person is an actual mason who makes brick walls with concrete, and he goes, me too. I am also a mason. He's like, what? And he pulls out a trowel, and he's like, see?
No, that's awesome. That's good.
It's really hilarious. It's excellent writing. I love that story. It's a really funny miscommunication, very much like Storr and Jamie's miscommunication of the term loyalist. So we have good writing, and then we have not good writing. So
wait. The Doctor Who in this case is good writing.
Yeah, we have a lot of good writing, which is very enjoyable, and we have some very bad writing, which is still enjoyable because it's funny how they're constantly dialoguing and explaining plot.
Edgar Allan Poe's great writing, and this is still great writing.
There's many good writing points, which great. There are many great excerpts and dialogues. Excerpts. Is there a P in that word? Excerpts?
No, there's no
excerpts.
You're putting me on it. What are you talking about? All right.
So they nurse Jamie back to health. Meanwhile, Clint and the Doctor and the whole crew's freaking out that Arden and Jamie aren't responding over the telecom. So the Doctor says,
"Do you explain why they went there?"
To rescue Victoria.
Right. And Jamie and Arden did that.
The Doctor wanted Jamie to go to rescue Victoria. Clint wanted Arden to go to find out more about the spaceship and whether or not it would explode if they activated the ionizer. So they both had their, personal interests, but the same mission. So Clint's freaking out that Arden's not responding because he wants to know whether or not he can turn on the ionizer. And the Doctor's freaking out that Jamie's not responding because he's concerned about his companion, Victoria. So neither of them respond. The Doctor then says, well, I'm the one to go. And he goes over to the rotary chemical maker. He types in H2O, takes a shot of water, types in, what's the chemical he made?
Ammonia phosphate.
Ammonia phosphate.
So
stink bomb.
Which
he theorizes that
it smelled like a fart.
He theorizes that because the Ice Warriors are from Mars and how
ammonium sulfate,
how their oxygen and gravity works on their planet, that this would be deadly to them for some reason. So he makes that. He says, "Here's my secret weapon. I'm gonna go turn myself in. I'm gonna be a hostage. I'm gonna, negotiate. And if things go south, I have this." And they're like, "That's crazy." And here again, we have this headbutting of Clint saying, "I need you. You're part of the crew now." And the Doctor going, "I'm not part of the crew. I make my own decisions. I have to go save my companions." So he leaves. He goes and he knocks on the door. They let him in.
Literally.
Yeah, literally says knock knock as he's banging on the spaceship. They let him into the airlock chamber. He says, "We need to talk. I can help you." They say, "You must answer our questions." And the Doctor, as sassy as he is, goes, Not until you properly address me. Not until you properly address me. And they go, fair enough. We're going to drain the air pressure into the chamber until you explode unless you answer our questions. And that's our cliffhanger.
Whoa, crap.
That's our cliffhanger at the end of that episode. So the doctor, of course, caves in the interest of self-preservation, going, all right, I'll answer your questions. Don't explode me. So they let him in as a prisoner. The doctor says, we can help you. You're frozen. We can thaw out this glacier so you can leave. Where do we go from there?
Okay, and then...
He's reunited with Victoria.
Yeah, exactly. He reunited with Victoria. And the doctor goes, hey, what kind of drives do you have? Ion drives? Okay, we'll work with that. Okay. You have one. Well, you finish that.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. No, not this one. Finish that one.
Keeping this one cold. Put the wood back on.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
So the doctor goes, hey, you got Victoria. And the doctor and Victoria go, oh, yay, we meet again. Because they do meet again. Okay, I gotcha. Anyway, so his notes are horrible. Anyway, so what's the episode? So the doctor and Victoria go, okay, we can help you. And to the Ice Warriors. And then they sabotage one of the Ice Warriors who's attempting to blow up part of the base. By the sulfur nitride or whatever it is, and noxious nitride, they subdue him. And then they go ahead and go, okay. They shoot a shot across the bow of the base, the military base, while the humans are. And then they actually go, hey, we're going to do this again if you don't surrender. And to his benefit, Clint Cleef, or whatever his name is, does not surrender. He says, hey, you come to us, we'll talk. And so the Ice Warriors show up. The main Ice Warrior, Vargas, with a couple of drone bees. They show up and they talk. He says, you will shut this reactor down. And at first, Clint is like, no, we won't. And then, of course, to the physical possibility of death, he succumbs. And Clint and everybody shuts it down. And then, once they shut it down, the Ice Warrior's like, well, you will do this for me. You will initiate in such a way that on my spaceship. And... you got it?
Yes.
Okay, where the hell are we? Okay.
We've crossed that point to where you're just about too drunk to explain the plot, and I think we've...
I'm right there, yeah, right there. I'm explaining it.
So we have absolutely...
I'm forgetting the ending. That's what I'm doing.
We have absolutely...
I'm forgetting the ending.
Achieved... We've earned an achievement this episode. We've broke the record for the longest plot summary. We're probably an hour and a half into this podcast. And we're just still trying to explain what happened this series.
Episode 6. No, we're on episode 6. So
we just need 10 minutes per episode to explain what happened. 15 maybe.
No.
13.
Seriously, you got one more right there.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm on mine, and you get your...
to stay sober enough to steer the ship somewhere.
No.
Because you're going right into it.
Okay, we have a gas tube. You're staying in this gas tube. Seriously. Seriously.
It's the last episode.
We have... we're finishing this episode.
Who's the leader? Vargas. No, Zondel Varga's the leader. He takes 2 drones to go negotiate at the base.
Right, we've done that.
Meanwhile, Zondel is on the spaceship and he's holding the doctor and Victoria hostage. When then the doctor takes out the ammonia sulfate, his secret weapon, because Zondel's about to start blasting at the base with their ion cannon. So he breaks Victoria throws the vial on his face, which apparently is poison to the Ice Warriors. Plot device. Zondel, we think, drops dead, but it wakes up earlier. He's not dead. He's just knocked out.
Wakes up later. Yeah.
So that way, the Doctor and Victoria can get away. Varga and his 2 drones storm into the base under the guise of negotiations, but really they're just trying to bully their way through things, and they're like, give us your power source, we need power, blah blah blah. The Doctor and Victoria are now at the helm of the Ice Warrior spaceship. They're going, well, let's come up with a plan. How are we gonna save this base? He decides that, well, here's an interesting plot device, which actually makes sense and I really like. So humans, as a species, we war amongst ourselves, therefore we have weapons developed to hurt other humans.
Yeah.
We have metal slugs, we have projectiles that are effective against other humans, like fleshy people. Bullet ripping through a fleshy person, it's going to do a lot of damage. We develop weapons from our own technology based on what we know. We know, as humans, how to make war against other humans. So if we went to war against like metal alien robots, our metal bullets wouldn't be very effective. In the same way, the Ice Warriors, who are this reptilian turtle species with these weird reverberating helmets that protect their faces, they're very sonic wave sound oriented. So because they have really thick exoskeletons, they didn't really develop projectiles per se. They developed sonic sound wave weapons to make war. And so that's their technology. The Doctor takes this theory and devises, well, their weapons must be more deadly against them than humans. So at long distances, I can fire, at a really long distance, I can fire this sonic cannon at the base, full power, and it'll be enough to maybe, knock out humans, this sound wave at this distance. But because of how the Ice Warriors' biology is, because of their weird reverberating helmets they have, it would really mess them up and it would be a lot more effective against them. So he says, all right, I'm going to fire the sonic blast at the base, full power, to try to, give the humans a headache, but completely knock out the Ice Warriors. Meanwhile, Penley has, once again, he's regained his faith in the whole scientific operation. We talked earlier about that mental breakdown he had, and how the Doctor, when he was talking to him earlier, he's like, hey, you should really help these guys out. They need you. You're the scientist of this whole operation. You kind of just jumped ship. You ran away, but you're the guy who really knows how to do all the calculations and stuff. And Penley, after having his mental breakdown, was kind of like, this is my reality right up here in my head. No admittance, this is where I exist, in my brain. And the Doctor's like, but all of Earth is at stake. You have to work as a team to, ensure the survival of humanity. But Penley is not really about that. He had his mental breakdown. He's like, nope, this is the only thing that matters, just up in my head. That's all I know. Eventually he snaps out of that and he goes, okay, I do need to work for the survival of humanity. He goes back to the base, discovers that the Ice Warriors have invaded. He goes, well, they're from Mars, so they're used to the Mars climate, which is really cold and not atmospheric. So here, I'll mess with them and try to throw them off. I'll turn the heater all the way up. I'll mess with the oxygen knobs and all these different levels. So this is working in conjunction with the Doctor firing the sonic wave over a long distance. All of a sudden the Ice Warriors, it's really hot, they're disoriented, sonic wave, they're like, oh man, we're getting out of here, this sucks. Turns out the Doctor's hypothesis was not correct. Their sonic weapons are way more effective against humans than the Ice Warriors. So for this long distance, the Ice Warriors were like, man, this sucks, let's get out of here. The humans are like, oh my god, this is the worst pain ever, and they all pass out. So all the humans are knocked out. The Ice Warriors get up and leave because they're really annoyed. At this point, the Doctor and Victoria are able to escape. They head back to the base. At the same time, Varga and his 2 drones come back to their ship. They meet Zondel, who's waking up from his ammonia sulfate knockout. And they go, man, that sucks. What are we going to do? The Doctor gets back to the base. He explains to Clint, all right, I found out about the alien spaceship. Turns out if we use the ionization cannon, it's not going to cause this big explosion because of their power source in their engine. So let's go ahead and turn it on. Let's save the planet. Turns out the ionization cannon is a really powerful weapon. It can be used as a really powerful weapon, not only, to control the climate of Earth, but also just as like a super focused beam of heat that can even melt rock into, molten lava. So Penley, being reunited, the scientific mind who knows all about the ionization cannon, goes, all right, well, let's get rid of these Ice Warriors. We're going to crank the dial up to 10. We're just going to blow them up. If it doesn't matter, if, their engine and their fuel source doesn't, it's not going to react with the ionization cannon, as the Doctor tells us, well, let's blow them sky high. So that's what they do. They turn the ionization all the way up. They fire. It's warming up the Earth back to the optimal level. The glacier is kind of melting. The Ice Warrior spaceship is just getting pounded with heat. At this point, all the Ice Warriors are in the spaceship. They're turning switches. They're like, man, we got to get out of here. Let's retreat to Mars. They're like, hey, thank you, Ice. Ice is our friend. We still have power. We didn't even know we had power. We have power. So let's get out of here. They're powering up their spaceship, and all of a sudden, everything's bursting into fire. They're like, oh, I see now that we don't have a reserve power source. It's just this immense heat that is about to destroy us, which was powering our engines. So, long story short, the Ice Warriors die in a terrible fiery explosion, and the whole base is celebrating. They took this calculated risk, this gamble, which the hive mind computer couldn't make. They eventually, they convince Clint that the computer is not all-knowing and all-powerful. They turn off the computer. They make decisions for themselves as humans, led by Penley, turning the knob on the ionization cannon, blows up the spaceship, but doesn't cause this big chain reaction, and they save all of humanity. And they're all celebrating, and amongst the celebration, they go, hey, we're all, Penley and Clint make amends. They finally agree to work together and to recognize each other's differences and just try to be friends. And they're going back and forth. They're chatting. They're like, well, I'll have to write a report because you've never been good at writing reports. And Penley's like, are you going to write about the Doctor in your report? And they turn around, and lo and behold, the Doctor and his companions have vanished because they're back in the TARDIS. They're taking off. They're time traveling through time and space on another adventure, which brings us to the end of the serial, The Ice Warriors. Next time, we're going to explore the enemy of the world? Yes, the enemy of the world is our next serial. I've been Holden. This is Hatter. He's asleep. Thank you once again for joining us. We'll see you next week. Happy Tuesday. Actually, we won't see you next week because movie night and then holidays.
So and then holidays. Also holidays.
We might go on a 2 or 3 week hiatus. Yay. We'll see you soon. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Say bye, Hatter.
Goodbye.
Where's the record button?
It's a red button. Red button.
I don't see a red button.
Left hand side.
Ah.
Red button.